Welcome everyone. The inflation puzzle, putting the pieces together for a clearer picture. What is inflation? Inflation is a term used to describe the general increase in prices of goods and services over time. To put it simply, inflation means that the purchasing power of our money decreases over time. Let's say we usually buy a medium sized pizza from a local pizzeria for rupees 150. Now imagine that over the next few years the price of pizza keeps increasing due to inflation. So let's say after a few years the same medium sized pizza now costs rupees 200. This means that the value of our money has decreased over time and we need more money to buy the same pizza which we used to buy for rupees 150. And this is not just limited to pizza but to all goods and services. Inflation affects everything from groceries to clothes to housing and transportation, everything. Long ago, people used to trade goods and services by bartering. It means that they exchanged one thing they had with something else they wanted. But as society grew and became more complex, people realized the need for a common medium of exchange, which we call currency. Back in ancient times, people used coins made of precious metals like gold and silver as their currency. These coins had a fixed value and could be used to buy goods and services. But something strange happened when rulers began debasing these coins, means they started reducing the amount of precious metal in each coin to fund their wards and the other expenses. Imagine if a pizza had 8 slices, but the pizza maker decided to cut it into 10 slices to make more profit. That's kind of what rulers did to the coins by reducing the amount of precious metal in each one. Let's take the example of ancient Rome. The Roman government started reducing the amount of silver in its coins to pay for its expenses. As a result, the coins had less silver in them, which meant they were worth less than before. But the prices of goods and services remained the same. So people had to pay more coins to buy the same things they could buy before for fewer coins. This was the birth of inflation. So in simple terms, inflation is like when the prices of goods and services rise, but the value of money goes down. It's like when we have to pay more money to buy the same things because the value of money has decreased. The factors that contributes to inflation. Inflation is caused by various factors. Here are some of the main causes. Increase in demand. If the demand for goods and services increases faster than the supply, it leads to higher prices causing inflation. Decrease in supply. If the supply of goods and services decreases, for example due to natural disasters, it leads to a shortage and prices go up. Increase in production costs. If the cost of producing goods and services goes up due to an increase in the cost of raw materials or wages, producers are forced to charge more, causing inflation. Increase in money supply. When the central bank prints more money, there is more money in circulation, which leads to more spending and higher prices. Too much money chasing too few goods. It's a basic idea that helps explain inflation. When there is more money in the economy than there are goods and services to buy, prices go up. And one way that can happen is when the central bank prints more money. For example, let's say the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, decides to print more money to give to people and businesses. As a result, there is more money floating around in the economy, but the number of goods and services available for purchase stays the same. This means that People have more money to spend, but there is not enough stuff to buy, so prices go up. Now one might wonder why the RBI would print more money in the first place. There are few reasons. One is to stimulate the economy during a recession or a slow period. By putting more money into circulation, the central bank hopes to encourage more spending and investment, which can help get things moving again. But printing money can also be controversial. Some people worry that it can lead to inflation or even hyperinflation, like what happened in Germany after World War I, when they printed more money to pay for the damages caused during the First World War. This led to hyperinflation, meaning the value of money decreased so much that people had to carry stacks of cash just to buy basic necessities like bread and milk. One of the earliest examples of printing money for economic stimulus dates back to the 18th century. In the 18th century, paper currency issued by the Bank of England was indeed backed by gold reserves, a system known as the gold standard. However, the amount of paper currency in circulation could exceed the amount of gold reserves held by the bank. This was possible because people did not always redeem their paper currency for gold at the bank, and the bank was able to issue more paper currency than the amount of gold it actually had. This practice is known as fractional reserve banking. It allowed banks to lend out more money than they actually had in the reserves. While this system allowed for more money to be circulated in the economy, it also carried the risk of bank runs and financial crises if too many people attempted to redeem their paper currency for gold at the same time. Inflation can hurt people on fixed incomes, like retirees or those with low wages, because their purchasing power decreases as prices rise. So the decision to print more money is not one that central banks take lightly, and they often have to balance competing concerns and priorities. Devaluation of currency. When the value of a currency falls compared to other currencies, it becomes more expensive to import goods, leading to higher prices. Fall in the value of a currency can lead to higher prices for imported goods. Oil imports is an example in the context of India. India is a large importer of crude oil, and most of its oil needs are met through imports. When the value of Indian rupee falls compared to the US dollars, it becomes more expensive for Indian oil importers to purchase oil from international markets, which are usually priced in dollars. This increase in the cost of importing oil leads to higher prices of petrol, diesel, and other petroleum products, which in turn leads to an increase in the prices of other commodities that rely on petroleum, such as transportation, manufacturing, and agriculture. For example, when the value of rupee fell in 2018, the price of crude oil, which is priced in dollars, remained the same. However, since the rupee had depreciated, Indian importers had to spend more rupees to purchase the same amount of oil, which led to higher petrol and diesel prices. This increase in fuel prices then led to higher transportation costs, which in turn led to higher prices for goods such as vegetables, fruits, and other perishable items that need to be transported over long distances. So a fall in the value of the rupee can have ripple effect on the economy, leading to a higher prices for a wide range of goods and services. Government policies. Certain government policies like taxes, tariffs, subsidies, and regulations can affect the prices of goods and services, leading to inflation. In summary, inflation is caused by a combination of supply and demand factors, production costs, money supply, currency devaluation, and government policies. Now I would like to read few paragraphs for the viewers from famous books written on inflation. The inflationary spiral pulled faster and faster. As the prices pounded out more money, people spent it faster, and prices rose higher. Production lagged with increasingly disparate results. There was a shortage of goods in the shops, a shortage of raw materials in the factories, and a shortage of labor to work the machines. But the owners of these had long since closed down or fled abroad. The desperate search for food and other necessities absorbed all energies. The entire economy was geared to the acquisition of money and the spending of it before it lost its value altogether. For it was clear to everyone that it could not hold its purchasing power for long. This was from the book When Money Dies. Last one is from the famous book The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money by John Maynard Keynes. The ideas of economists and political philosophers, both when they are right and when they are wrong, are more powerful than is commonly understood. Indeed, the world is ruled by little else. Practical men who believe themselves to be quite exempt from any intellectual influence are usually the slaves of some defunct economist. In conclusion, we can see that inflation is not a new phenomenon with a history spanning centuries. However, by keeping the supply and demand of goods and services constant, the monetary policy of the central bank plays a crucial role in controlling inflation. Governments mandate their respective central banks to control money supply in order to influence the various cycles of economy. At an individual level, it is important to understand that the purchasing power of money decreases over time due to inflation. Therefore, it becomes essential to take measures to protect ourselves from the negative effects of inflation. As we wrap up, let me ask a few questions. How do you think inflation affects your daily life? What steps do you take to protect yourselves from its negative impact? Are government and central banks doing enough to manage inflation? These are important questions to consider as we strive for a better understanding of the inflation puzzle. Thank you.